Build a cozy fire in your abandoned chateau and listen to my
Initial thoughts. Initial thoughts. Initial thoughts.
Welcome again. We're reviewing the 4th episode of Picard's 2nd season, Watcher. I've got an ICE detention center full of spoilers if you'd like to jump the border now. For the 2nd week in a row, we get an episode directed by the wonderful Leah Thompson, and I gotta say, she's making her mark on the Trek world known. The directing in modern Trek has been decent, but she's the first one doing multiple episodes that I'm standing up and taking notice of. This week is all set up for the season, and it's wonderfully paced as we reinforce mysteries we already knew and introduce some new ones without actually answering any of our lingering questions. We start out by answering the question I had last week about how Picard's ancestors didn't know a ship had crashed in their backyard. Jean-Luc and Agnes seek shelter and warmth in the chateau that we learn has been abandoned since World War II. I've got the first like for Picard finally giving us an explanation to why he's the most British Frenchman in the history of sci-fi. Because his family moved to England after the war, but the property stayed in his family. I've also got another like for Girardi name-dropping Picard's favorite holographic time waster, Dixon Hill. We learn the Confederation version of La Sirena has a cloaking device, and see some more flashbacks to Picard's mommy issues that leave us with more questions than answers. After the opening credits, I've got another like for this awesome callback to Star Trek, the one with the whales, where what might be the same punk listening to a slightly updated version of the same song that caused Spock to nerve pinch a loud, obnoxious 80s stereotype. Again, like last episode, this light-hearted scene is paired with a dark moment where Raffi reminds us she's not doing okay after Elnor's death. She and Seven spend the runtime mostly playing Grand Theft Auto while looking for the soon-to-be-deported Rios. I've got to give a like again for a scene between Chris and Dr. Ramirez. They really do play off each other nicely. We get a bit of her backstory and some nice racial injustice talk. The way people keep talking about this deportation, though, it seems in a world with inhumane sanctuary districts, illegals might just be digging themselves holes in the desert somewhere. I have another like for Rios summarizing the plot up to this point and throwing in a Strange New World speech thread just to be a smartass to an ICE agent. Anyone else in the US feel more secure with these jokers protecting the homeland? I had been wondering if the Watcher was Guinan, since they said Los Angeles, and it turns out I was wrong, but not far off. Picard uses the coordinates Girardi stole from the Borg Queen's mind, and it drops him back at the 10 Forward bar, where he meets a young Guinan ready to leave Earth. He convinces her to stay for a bit, but here's where I have a dislike. How does she not know who Picard is immediately? She eventually recognizes the name, but since she looks older in the 1890s when they first met, does this possibly imply that Guinan is going to time travel back to that time period from her future? Guinan introduces Picard to the Watcher that was foretold, and we're again left with more questions than answers, when it appears to be Laris without the pointy ears. And she takes Picard somewhere. Only in Los Angeles can a 10-year-old kidnap an old man and no one bats an eye. Here's another dislike for jumping the logical closure point, just so we can get this big reminder that Q is not well. To the point that his snappy finger trick doesn't work anymore. In this scene, a woman is seen reading what appears to be a fictional book called The Pallid Sun, written by Tracy Torme, who was a writer on seasons 1 and 2 of TNG. He was the executive story editor for a good chunk of those seasons, and his actual writer credits include mostly huge flops from those seasons, like Manhunt, Haven, The Big Goodbye, Conspiracy, The Royale, and probably the actual best one, The Schizoid Man. So far, the only connection I see in these episodes to Picard is the Dixon Hill reference earlier in the episode. Maybe it's hinting at a Data grandfather figure in the 2020s. We know Q and Asung are going to interact at some point. The title of the book itself would refer to someone who's pale and sickly, which seems to refer to Q here, but who's the son in this reference? Is Jean-Luc a child of Q? The other way around? He's also wearing a patch of the Europa project that we've seen advertised multiple times so far. Like most of the episode, more questions than answers here. There's also a small plot about Girardi letting the Borg Queen repair the transporter, and they try and get in each other's heads a bit more. Just enough to keep moving that plot point forward. We got some great setup in this episode, and I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to see where this season takes us from here. Join me next week to maybe answer some questions rather than just ask them. I've been your host, Dustin Wing.